It's my pleasure to welcome everybody, and I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this important presentation. This review of our campus climate deserves our thoughtful and sustained attention. Now, part of my responsibility this morning is to introduce our presenter, but before I do that, let me just say a few words to share some observations with you. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Climate Study Committee who, in preparation for today, worked tirelessly and thoughtfully over many months. They approached this work with the steadfast determination that the study requires, and they represent all facets of our community. So on behalf of all of us, I'm thankful for the efforts that they have already put into this work, and thankful to all of you for your ongoing efforts as we seek to create a more equitable environment on this campus. And in particular, I want to thank Diane Anderson for stepping in upon Lily Rodriguez's departure to really lead this process to this phase. So thank you so much, Diane. I think we all owe you a bit of gratitude. So as a new president, part of my job in these early months is to really immerse myself in the community and to get to know the place and its people better. And I'm grateful for a study such as this one that provides a composite view of how different community members are feeling about the place, are experiencing Swarthmore, and this study also provides us with a view of the recent history of the college. I think we all appreciate that in the months ahead, we will certainly encounter new challenges and incorporate new insights into our thinking about the college's future. And these experiences will undoubtedly add further complexity and nuance into the findings of the survey thus far. One thing you'll discover as Sue presents these materials is that the report does not suggest a best plan of action for us. That is up to all of us to figure out the path forward. And so I look forward to working with you in conversation to develop our future actions through a series of community conversations and forums and other opportunities for us to share ideas and work together. So just sort of be prepared for the fact that after today's review of the findings, then we'll begin to put together a process for further conversation as we figure out next steps and an implementation plan. Finally, I'll just add that as we think about appropriate next steps, I've been encouraged by the fact that many of the report's findings are in alignment with my own personal values and some of the priorities that attracted me to the campus to begin with, and that I've been speaking about in my inauguration address and others. So I feel very happy about that sense of alignment. Today's snapshot of the survey findings will help us inform our understanding of where we're succeeding and where we need to make improvements and introduce change within our culture. I hope that we will embrace both the places that affirm the work we're doing and the critiques of what we're doing and areas where we can improve. We shouldn't be afraid to take pride in what we're doing well, nor should we be afraid to admit where we are falling short. So once again, I'm grateful for the tireless work of the committee and for all of the time, analysis, and review of the survey results that Dr. Sue Rankin and her associates have invested here. So let me introduce our speaker. Dr. Sue Rankin is the principal for Rankin and Associates Consulting, an associate professor in the Department of Education Policy Studies, and a senior research associate in the Center for the Study of Higher Education at Pennsylvania State University. She has presented and published widely on the impact of sexism, racism, and heterosexism in the academy and in intercollegiate athletics. Her current research focuses on the assessment of institutional climate and provides program planners and policymakers with recommended strategies to improve the campus climate for underserved communities. Dr. Rankin has collaborated with over 170 institutions and organizations in implementing assessments and developing strategic plans regarding social justice issues. Since 1999, Rankin and Associates Consulting has specialized in assisting educational institutions with their assessments of their environments for learning and working. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Sue Rankin and expressing our gratitude to her for sharing her expertise with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And I know that President's got a zillion things on her plate today, so I really appreciate the fact she came to be part of this. She's already seen it along with the cabinet this morning, so I'll talk more about that in a second. Hi, I'm Sue. How are everybody? Good, good. I do want to thank Becky. Betsy, where are you? Betsy, oh, thank you. I have never been treated so well as coming to Swarthmore. Betsy takes very good care of me. Tea, water, whatever I might need to keep going. So thank you very much. And I also want to thank the committee. If you're a committee member, kind of raise your hand. Let me give a round of applause to the committee, please, because, yeah, thank you. We've worked together for over a year and a half now on getting to this point. So thank you for the invitation and for letting me come today and spend a little time with you. As the president offered, this is not my full-time gig. I'm a professor at Penn State, have been since 2013, so sorry, 36 years. Yeah, I know, a long time. Little background, because it's important, I think, for you to know the people that are doing the work with you. So I'm a first-generation low-income kid from Brooklyn, New York. Okay, anybody from New York City? Fabulous. When I go to Alabama, I make you all kind of translate for me because they can't go as fast as I go. I spent my time in Brooklyn and then moved to New Jersey, and because I could put a ball in a basketball hoop a little bit better than my friends could, I got to go to college. Any students in the room? Don't listen to this, okay? I went to college to play basketball because I didn't know what college was. So I liked science, so I studied physiology. And loved it, had a good time. Montclair State Teachers College. My goal in life was to be a teacher and a coach at a high school. That was my goal. And when I finished my degree, you could paper this room and probably about 10 others in this building with my rejection letters for teaching jobs, because there were no jobs in 1978 when I graduated. It was a very bad recession. So my mentor in college, that's important, my mentor in college said, well, why don't you substitute teach for a year and kind of get your feet wet? So I did, in Newark, New Jersey. I taught at Roberto Clemente High School and Behringer High School. And when I finished, I realized I didn't want to be a high school teacher anymore. But I love the coaching part. So again, my mentor said, hey, there's a job opening at Penn State for an assistant softball coach. I'm like, great. Oh, I'm a better softball player than a basketball player. My claim to fame is my team played in the Final Four. Okay? And my team played in the Final Four. I sat the bench. I think I played like 3 minutes in my whole college career. Anyway, so I played softball, though. And so the job opened, so I went. Joe Paterno was the athletic director at the time. So I got there, and the coach said, so what graduate program are you in? And I'm like, huh? Well, you're an assistant coach, but you're a grad assistant. You have to have some degree. I'm like, oh. So again, I go to college to be a softball coach and not to be a student. So I ended up in physiology and found out that Penn State has the best physiology lab in the country when I studied exophysiologist I studied. So did that, and when I finished, the head coach left. Joe said, yo, Sue, you want this job? Kind of like that. And I said, well, I'll apply. So I applied for the job, got the job, 22 years old, head coach of Penn State softball. I had no clue what I was doing. Ask my colleagues up there, they know. I had no idea. So when I did mentorship again, got mentors, but when I started coaching, it was the NCAA and the AIW. There were two separate organizations for athletics, one for women and one for men. I'm dating myself. And my third year coaching, the NCAA did a hostile takeover, I think, of the AIW because there was money made with athletics. And so now the NCAA has money for us, for scholarships, which didn't have before, right? Whole different kind of a place now for me. However, they didn't think about anything else. So our salaries were much less than men's salaries for coaching. Women had crappy facilities for their venues, and they gave women athletes less meal money than men athletes. Did you ever see a softball team eat? Okay. So I actually was the NCAA Reps Division I for about 10 years of my coaching, 17 years coaching at Penn State, to work on gender equity issues. So you kind of see what's happening in my life here, right? Then I got a PhD. I moved to the administration. I was Associate Vice Provost at Penn State for Educational Equity for about 12 years. And in that role, broadened my horizons about other things besides gender, right? Gender and race, LGBT, disability, first generation, international. So much more on my portfolio than before, and realizing that students were experiencing things very differently based upon who they were, and that influenced their success, or ability to be successful. So all my research then started focusing on how does the environment in which those students live influence their ability to be successful, and that then moved to faculty and staff, because they also had issues and concerns. And so this is where it all kind of started, totally serendipitously. But in all the work that I do, you can see that what I did was about inclusion, right? Being included. How do I feel as if I'm part of this community to be successful? Okay, so given that, I did a research project back in the early 90s that looked at 30 institutions and their climate for faculty, staff, and students, and how that climate influenced student learning, or faculty success, or staff success. When I finished it, there were a number of people who said, can you do that for us? And I'm like, I guess. So that's where this all happened. I didn't have to be a consultant. That was not my goal in life. But we've done a lot of work over the last 25 years and have found some things that we think are helpful for campuses in moving forward. So I'm a very action-oriented person. That's my coaching, my Italian background, I have no idea what, but I'm very action-oriented, okay? So we collect tons of data in higher education, right, Robin? Where does that data go? On Robin's shelf. Exactly right. Or we collect the data, make a nice task force, they make a nice report. Where does the report go? On the same shelf. Yes, exactly right. I am very clear that when I do this work with college universities, that this is not how it's going to happen here. So we talk about how to develop the action plan before we start the project. Okay? We talk about what's the process for creating those actions that the president just talked about a bit. It can't be the administration decides what the actions are. You have to be part of that process. So after you look at this and reflect on it a bit, we'll talk more about what those action things will look like, okay? Cool. All right, oh, other thing. This is a very transparent process. I wouldn't be standing here otherwise. I got fired from one job in my 172 schools because the president didn't want me to print what I found. And I said, fine, I quit. I don't need the job, truly. So the beginning of this process, we had an interim president, right? And when I chatted with the cabinet and the senior leadership, I said, you will not see this report until the morning that everybody else sees it. And they were like, That's a little scary for a senior administration, in case you don't know that. But they followed through on that, okay? And President Smith was the same way. She said, fine. In transparency, a month before I come here, I met with Diane and the president, not with the report, but just to say, here are some things that I think, I don't want you to get blindsided by something, right, as a president. So here are some things you might consider. The rest of the senior leadership didn't see any of this. Now, I know there are no cynics in higher education, none at Swarthmore, right? Oh, we have some here? Okay. So, but I wanted to let you know that's the process, okay? I did not get bought off by the administration to print the good stuff that you'll see in a second, okay? The full report, this one, okay, this is good nighttime reading. The 2 hard copies will be in the library if you want to go to the library on reserve and read a hard copy. It'll also be up on the website, the climate website. Hopefully next week we're working on getting that done. I know where my communications folks are, but they're working on really hard on getting that up. And this presentation will be there as well, okay? The presentation is 133 slides. I'm not going to do 133. It's boring for you and boring for me. So I'm going to give you a summary review, but when it gets put up on the website, we'll unhide all the hidden slides just because there are more details about what I'm talking about in a more summarized fashion, okay? That's kind of my overview. All right, so why study climate? This is, any engineers in the room? Fabulous, those 3 cog wheels don't work. But the idea is that climate's ever changing, right? It's amorphous. If I studied climate at Penn State in November 2013, I'm sorry, September, and then did it again in November, it's a very different place, right? So things happen that influence the climate. Oh, last thing, this is being videotaped. We're going to stop the tape when we start questions and answers, so that obviously there's not going to be you on the tape. But it's there for folks who couldn't make these meetings. They can see it then stream later, okay? So our only reason for existing in higher education from our work is to create and distribute knowledge, learning, period. We're here for students. Students should be the center of everything we do, okay? We look at climate for faculty, staff, and students who are currently here. We don't look at alumni. We don't look at, because alumni tend to have rose-colored glasses. It was a great experience or it sucked. Okay, there's no in between, right? We don't look at boards of regents or trustees or legislatures, even though they influence the climate, because it's amorphous enough to measure it just for the folks who are here. Okay? We measure it for a living, learning, and working environment, faculty, staff, and students. Now, I provide lots of references because this is work that other folks do besides me. Everything we do is based in the literature. We're an academic institution, it should be. Okay, so I'll talk more about that as we go through. Climate's a construct. So in my previous life as a physiologist, I studied bone density for postmenopausal women. I am now my own subject. When the jacket comes off, you know why. It's all my own personal summer. On, off. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So when you measure bone density, you do it with a bone densitometer. Anybody had a DEXA scan done? Women my age, probably. Yeah, a lot of hands go up. Good. You should have those. Very good. It measures bone density because you lose that as you get older as a woman. And so to measure it, you measure it to the 0.00 confidence level with this bone densitometer. You do an intervention. In my case, I did exercise and nutrition. And then I measure it again. I know what happened, right? I studied women of color versus white women because there was very little research in the medical journals about women, period, or about women of color in particular, right? So I know what happened. One measurement, one question. When I moved from science to social and behavioral science, very different animal, the research, right? It's not experimental design anymore. It's more, how do I measure attitudes and feelings and behaviors? You have to ask lots of questions. How's your climate? Well, it's raining. No, that's not what I mean, right? So we have to ask lots of questions. So we did. Oh, so there's 3 parts that we look at. We look at personal experiences, how you experience the campus climate from where you sit. We talk about perceptions, which is what's it like for other people that you think, do you think? And third, what are we doing or not doing at Swarthmore to address those things, okay? Those are the 3 factors that came out of my original climate factor analysis that I did for my study. Those 3 have held true in every study since, okay? So these are good questions. There's also subcategories now we developed based upon more things we've added. Why? I'm telling you all this because people say, why should we bother studying climate in the first place? Because campus climate influences student learning. If our only reason for existence is students and student learning, we should care about climate. This is not rocket science, okay? We know that environments where students don't feel welcome, okay, that is less of a learning environment for them. We know that heterogeneous classrooms are better than homogeneous ones for students to learn in. We know having faculty and staff who are different than students in the classroom or on the population allow for a better learning environment. Those are all in the literature, not just my work, other folks' work too. Faculty and staff. Lots of stuff on faculty in the literature. Women in STEM fields have a more difficult time going through tenure and promotion process than do faculty who are men. Okay? We also know we kill our faculty of color in higher education. Staff of color too. Okay? And especially at a small campus. And the reason is because, again, not rocket science. First day on the job, my friend Isaiah and I get hired the same day to teach English. We're all jazzed up, right? Because we're going to work together. He and I know each other. I can do that. So Isaiah and I, we're really cool about this. So 3rd day on the job, President Smith calls Isaiah and says, Isaiah, can you serve on the university-wide diversity committee? What do you say? Yes. Oh, absolutely. The 3rd day on the job, you don't say no, right? Okay. So 3 weeks later, he gets a call from the dean. The dean says, Isaiah, can you be on these 2 search committees for us? Because we need some diversity on the search committee. Sure. Sure. You don't say no to the dean, right? I don't give you those calls. Nobody calls me to do that, right? More importantly, every African American student on this campus will find Isaiah to be his mentor or her mentor. Okay? They don't come to me. When it comes time for promotion and tenure, our dossier review, very different dossiers. Mine looks a little bit more expansive than his. But he had a whole lot more work to do that wasn't on mine, right? That happens for every marginalized faculty or staff member. And a lot of, if you can sit up here, all of you are going like this. It's pretty fun to watch. So I'm not saying you don't know, right? So we need to make sure that we talk about faculty. Faculty, a lot of work on faculty literature about faculty of color having a more difficult time going through P&T process than white faculty. Staff. There is not one article, not one, in all of the higher education literature on staff. How many staff in the room? Isn't that telling? So actually we tried, from the research that we've done, I tried to put one in the Review of Higher Ed and the Journal of Higher Ed, and the review that came back from them was rejected because it's outside the scope of our journal. Wow. So I went to the business literature, and we found in the business literature that people who work in business, employees in business, who have workplace environments that aren't, where they don't feel appreciated or valued, that it influences their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. They miss more work. They're not very fun to be around. Nobody like that at Swarthmore, though, right? I know. Who's the first person a student sees when they come to campus? First interaction they have face-to-face? Staff, one of you. Admissions, where's my admissions folks, right? Financial aid, financial aid. Residence, student affairs, folks, they're going to see you first. If you're having that kind of an experience, what's the interaction going to be like for the student? Sucky. Right, so we look at faculty, staff, and students. So we study all three. All right, so your project, there were 4 phases. First one was focus groups. We were part of those groups. Thank you very much. Gave us a lot of information. We don't have a survey template. We have a lot of questions we give to the committee, and the committee was made up of faculty, staff, and students from across the institution to have a better idea of what that survey would look like that would best fit Swarthmore, because you are unique here. You already know that, but I'm telling you, you're unique here. Okay? We developed a tool over 8 months. We had, I don't know, 15 or 16 drafts. I don't remember, committee. How many did we have, Jen? Too many to count. Yeah, I know. Data analysis we did, and everything came back to me. Right? Nothing went back to Swarthmore. Confidential was very important. I'm going to tell a story anyway, so I'm going to do something anyway. I had a person who emailed me and said, please take my survey out of your data set. Because if they read this, they're going to know it's me and I'm going to get fired. I said, well, I don't know who you are. It's a confidential survey, so I don't know which one is yours. I can't take yours out. So email said, can I talk? Can we have a conversation? So we had a conversation, and you could hear the fear in this person's voice about how worried they were about whether or not they would be identified. And I said, I promise you, I talked them off the ledge and said, I won't identify you. But that's a climate issue, right? That's something that people are fearful of. And so I'm seeing some head nods, okay? So it's not, this isn't a unique experience. All right, so confidentiality was important. Phase 4, we're here doing the presentation, and the next big steps are to do the actions that come out of this. We are not going to create a strategic plan for action. No, that's not going to happen here. We're going to develop 3 actions you can actually accomplish in a year that are metrically measurable to see if, in fact, we valued and heard what you said. We've responded to that based upon that and created these actions, and we're going to move forward based on that, okay? All right, 100 questions, qualitative and quantitative. We had about 19 people that decided to use paper and pencil surveys. They were merged into the online data set. It's a population study, which means that everybody at Swarthmore had a chance to be in it if they wanted to be in it, okay? I don't do random sampling. Why not? Why not a random sample? What is a random sample? Random. Okay, I take your whole data, your population data set, and I pull out 1, 12, 22, 74, 82, like that, right? Why don't I do that? This is where I ask the questions and you guys answer. Sorry? You want all the input you can get. All I can get. Climate includes everyone. If you have 2 Native American students, I'm going to miss both of them if I do a random sample, right? Then I did randomized stratified sampling when I did paper and pencil surveys because you couldn't do it, a population, because it was too expensive, right? So I don't do randomized because if, what's your name? Can I use you for an example? Yeah. Okay, good. Emily gets a survey. She's like, how come I got one of these surveys? You don't get a survey, you're like, where's my survey? I have a lot of opinions about this stuff. Okay, so now we do populations as possible. All right, self-selection, always concerns in survey research about limitations, right? So you have to point those out. It's a self-selection bias. You want to take it, you take it. If you don't want to take it, you don't have to. No one's twisting your arm, right? Number 2, response rates. What's a good response rate? What do we need? 30%. Fabulous. Knowledgeable group. That sounds low, right? But that's the number that's used in survey research by big people like Gallup and all those people, right? That means that if 30% of the Latino students fill a survey out, if they all filled it out, similar responses would occur. Okay, so we can generalize. The lowest I've had, 8%. University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A waste of time and money, okay? I can say that's an open record, so you can go to the website and see this stuff, right? Highest I had, 86%. Want to know where? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Ursuline College, small Catholic college in Ohio. The president is Sister Diana. She said, fill it out. They all filled it out. I can't make this stuff up. Okay, so desirability. Okay, that means that you're answering the questions the way you think I want you to answer them. That did not happen here, just so you know. Limitation method-wise, I already talked about that. Less than 5 in a cell, move to the next level, right? To make sure that we don't identify individuals because you're a small community, right? If you're the only Latina English professor and you mark all those things, I know who you are. So we move that to the next level. Maybe it's all women of color faculty. Maybe it's all faculty of color, whatever the lowest common denominator is, okay? All right, any questions on how we got to this point? Fabulous. Response rates, fabulous. 38%. Yes, okay? Committee did a great job of getting people to respond. And it went across all 3 categories. 30% more of faculty, 30% of students, 30% of staff. Okay, that's very important because now we can generalize, right? So in the summary slides here, I'll break it down more. So faculty by tenured in tenure track, staff by hourly and salary, et cetera. So you'll be able to look more detailed in the report. Other characteristics, great pictures, by the way. Thanks for your website. Okay, race, no big surprise. A big bar on the top's white. That's not a big surprise to anyone at Swarthmore, I don't think. But look at the other categories, okay? Those are not the usual EEO categories you see when you fill out like the ACS and things like that, right? Mainly because the committee was very clear. We want to be inclusive from the start, okay? We want to make sure that we at least try not to other people from the start. There was no other please specify anywhere on this survey. So this question has said, if you're not one of these, are you a racial identity that's not listed here? It's a little softer, okay? So given that, however, I can't do analysis by less than 1% of Middle Eastern folks who responded to the survey, because I'll identify people. So I went back to the committee and said, how do we recode these to make sure that we capture people's experiences with identifying individuals? And so for race, this is how we did it. We did it for every single demographic category. So here we've got white, folks of color, multiple race, which is an important category, because people that have multiple race experience things very differently than a single race, right? For gender, trans spectrum. We had enough people identifying across a gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, however you want, trans asterisk, however you decide to call it here. Okay, it changes every time I change my, look at my email, it's a new word, right? So right now, trans asterisk is one of the ones people are using. But you had enough students in that category to do analysis by trans students, which is very positive. LGBTQ. Again, sexual identity. These are both positive findings, right? Because people who are in minority categories who are invisible often tend not to identify even on anonymous surveys. But students, especially students here, felt comfortable identifying their sexual orientation and their gender identity if it was outside cisgender or straight, okay? Positive. Disability. Again, we tried to use the disability categories that you use at Swarthmore. And I want to point out that where you are, I'm not going to compare you to anybody else because you're unique at Swarthmore. Comparisons are ludicrous, right? I just finished the UC system, California system, all of them. Nightmare. Oh, it's videotaped. Oops. Okay, anyway. So, okay, good, on YouTube. So Berkeley, when the President Napolitano became the president in the middle of the project, right? I get a call on my cell phone from the president. I'm like, hi. She's like, well, I need to know comparisons between the campuses. I'm like, I can't tell you that. What do you mean you can't tell me? I can't tell you because Berkeley is Berkeley. It's in the Bay Area. It's a research one. It's been around forever. It's at a medical school. Then they've got Merced, which is in the middle of nowhere, California. And it mainly serves migrant students and farmers' kids. It's a very different kind of an environment. I can't compare those two on these issues. Okay, I can't compare you with anybody else. What I will point out from the presentation is where you're an outlier, 3 standard deviations away from the mean one way or the other, either challenging or positive, okay? So here, the first one, that's never usually my first one. When I break that out, that's mostly students who are experiencing anxiety and stress for being a Swarthmore student. That is not unique, probably not something you already know, especially people in student affairs. You got that already, right? We've also seen a tremendous jump in student disabilities over the last 10 years. My graph would go like this, right, from like 2000, 2015. Why? Why are there more students on campus disabilities? Again, this is where I ask the question. Never a wrong answer. Yeah. Yeah, now it's a little more socially acceptable to have ADHD or PTSD or whatever it might be, right? So it's socially acceptable. Why else? Because they're being diagnosed in high school. And they get pharmacological agents in high school that help them be successful in high school to be able to apply to college. And when they come here, unfortunately, student affairs folks, we know what? They go off their meds. Because mom and dad aren't there to take care of them anymore. My first year people, right? As a faculty member, I have no clue how to work with student disabilities. That's not part of my training as a faculty member in physics or physiology or English or whatever. We have to be able to provide tools to our faculty and staff to make sure they can do the work, right? Okay. Oh, faith-based affiliation. We had one of everything, and you have one of everything at Swarthmore, okay, on our list of faith-based affiliations. Like you had Wiccan, pagan, agnostic, atheist, whatever, all the Muslim possibilities, all Jewish population. You had choices, right? We still had a lot of students fill in the other please specify. What did they put in there? If you know, please don't tell because you already know. Jedi. You got a lot of Jedis at Swarthmore. That was before the movie came out. So, and I'm poking fun, but in Great Britain right now, that's a response category in spirituality lists. So, thinking about that. The other piece I want to point out is that the work by Alexander Aston, if you're not familiar with Dr. Aston's work, is about spirituality and student success. And what he's found is that students who have some spiritual foundation, whatever it might be, pagan, doesn't matter, that they're more successful than students who don't have a spiritual foundation. Look at your categories. Most folks here have no affiliation. Not surprising at Swarthmore. But surprising in my work, it's an outlier. Usually Christians first. Okay? Citizenship. This is here because I want to point out you have international students, obviously, but you also have less than 5 we don't put in. This is there because I want to make the invisible visible. You have undocumented students here. 3 who took the survey. Okay? Probably more if they all filled it out. Very different experiences for undocumented students than for students who are documented. Okay. Students experiencing hardship. Yep, you do. Lots of hardship. Everybody, this is not an outlier. It's usually 50%. Students say they experience hardship. The unique thing here is the third one. What's that one say? There are students who told us in the focus groups and the qualitative work that they are homeless during breaks. They have no place to go because they can't go home. They can't afford it. So that's kind of a low-hanging fruit for me. Something that I might be able to take care of pretty quickly because in my student affairs mantra, which is what I taught at Penn State, do no harm. That's harmful. No place to live, right? The others are things we find other places. So, all right, findings. So what do we find? Ready? All right. First 3 questions in the survey are kind of let's kind of get into this easy part of the questions, right? Are you comfortable? That means probably nothing, right? It's like satisfaction. I hate those surveys. Are you satisfied? What's that mean? But those are outliers. First 2 are very low. It's usually 80% that I'm finding other places, okay? However, the third one, faculty and students in class, very high. So I'm cool in the classroom, but the rest of the campus sucks. Okay? All right. So we don't have problems in higher education. We have challenges and opportunities. So what are those for this particular campus? 24% of you said you experienced some kind of conduct interfere with your ability to work or learn. That's harassment. We don't use that word because it's very triggering for people, right? That's lower than I find. It's usually 25 to 30%. It's just a little bit below. That means it's good. You're not good. That's still 232 people experience that kind of conduct, right? Based mostly upon these characteristics. Now, we had a whole list of things, right, committee? I don't know, 35 to 40 choices here. These are your top 8. Gender is not usually number 1, okay? Position is always up there. Ethnicity and race. Political views and philosophical views never make the top 10. I'm at Swarthmore. Okay, so income status rarely makes the top 10. I'm at Swarthmore. Okay, so by themselves, they don't mean a lot. You start breaking them down, they will. So these are how I experienced it, right? We had a long list of things for choose from. These are the top 8. What are similar about the first 3? Top 3. No wrong answers. What do you think? Exclusionary. Yep. What else? Yeah. Oh, yes. Invisible or subtle. You're not going around beating each other up. You're not smacking each other. You're not, calling each other bad names, things like that. Well, you are, but not a lot. Those are microaggressions. Okay. Microaggressions are as impactful as being slapped across the face. Example, 6'4", African-American young man, works into his first engineering class. What's the first thing the professor asks him? Do you play basketball? No, sir, I'm just here to be an engineer. Are you sure you're in the right class? That happened last year. So I can't make this stuff up. That's a microaggression for that young person. Okay? I'm not going to say anything. It's my first class. Okay? But that's as impactful that person is being slapped. And they build those microaggressions. Dr. Sue, not me, Sue. Dr. Sue's research on microaggressions, great information if you want to look at it. He's amazing. And talks about how that influences students' ability to be successful. Now, one question is not climate, right? All of these together make up climate. So we go through this, kind of look and see which ones are starting to come together as things that are themes. That comes up more and more, or over and over, okay? So going back to gender being number 1, this breaks it down a little bit more. So here I'm going to look at by gender, right? So here it says men experienced harassment about 21% of the time. 16% was based on the fact they were a guy, okay? Women about 23%. 32% said because I'm a woman. Trans, look at that one, right? So we get a better idea of how they break down by groups, and there's more in the report. Based on position, given what I said in the last slide, what's that slide tell you? Staff. What's that tell you? Pardon? Yeah, staff is having a much more difficult time than students and faculty. Right? So you look here, and students are experiencing about 20%, but only 5% because they're a student. Other things student experience it based on. Faculty, 24%, about a quarter of them because they're faculty, a quarter of staff, but almost half of the staff say it's because I'm a staff member. And when I break down that staff, it's hourly staff who are experiencing that. That's not unique to Swarthmore. I find that everywhere I go in the country. Staff at higher education, hourly staff in particular, feel undervalued and underappreciated. And you're all going like this. Okay. What's that one tell you? I did this 3 times because I never get 0 in anything when I do survey research. White folks never experience it based upon the fact they're white. That's a very positive finding, even though it's not. Okay? What it says to me, because I've seen graphs before, where there's at least some people who are white who say they experience because they're white. Folks here get it, sometimes. Not everybody. Folks in the sample, they get it. Okay? I get I'm white, and I've got some privilege around that whiteness. All right? However, look at people of color and multiple race people. Almost always because they're a person of color or multiple race, or they experience this kind of conduct. Okay? LGBTQ. No heterosexual, no other, no asexual, just the LGBTQ folks. Because they are queer, they experience this. Class. Again, low income, much more often than those who are in that low income. These are not things you don't already know. But now you have data to support them, right? Where did it happen? For most faculty and staff and meeting with a group of people, or working a job. For students, mostly in a class or a lab, or at a Swarthmore event. Something that's going on that's sponsored by Swarthmore. And again, we had a long list to choose from. These are the top 6. Who did it? What's that slide tell you? For students, it's other students who's the perpetrator. Okay? So students, when you come to me and say, hey, can you fix it? I'm like, you're doing it to each other. You need the help in this process. We have to work together on this, right? For faculty, other faculty. And you see zeros in the other ones and only 58%. Well, how come? Because we had a long list of things to choose from, and they're all over the place in the other ones, like alumni or a board trustee member or whatever it might be, right? For staff, supervisor or other staff. We do an awful job in higher education of teaching faculty and staff. Awful. Okay? Anybody work in physical plant? Okay. Those in physical plant. HVAC is a big thing in physical plant, right? And mostly guys work in HVAC. So I'm going to gender this for a second, okay? Just make it easier. So you're a guy in HVAC, you've worked here 15 years, there's an opening for another position, supervisor, you apply for it and you get it. Yay! Okay? So you get the job, promotion. Friday night, go out with the guys, have a beer, because you do, celebrate, right? On Monday, you're the boss, no training in between how to do that. We found in the business literature that folks don't have the tools to do their job become bullies. It's the only way they know how to lead. Okay? Or they don't become a boss, they stay one of the guys, and there's no supervision happening at all. So we need to provide something in there. We're an educational institution, for Pete's sake. We should be able to provide some kind of training. I hate the word training. Toolkits. Dogs get trained. I don't like training. People don't get trained. So we have to figure out how we're going to do that toolkit development, right? Same thing for faculty. How many faculty in the room? Got a few. Okay. So I have a friend, and this is in my presentation another time, and he said, you know, this is really funny because, you know, I'm a physiologist, and you know that I do cardiac phys, and I work with rats because that's how I do my experiments with rats, because I can't do people because I might kill them. So graduate school, I did rats. Cool. Work in the lab. When I get my professorship, I'm working with rats as assistant professor. Get my tenure, I'm still working with rats. Sometimes a graduate student, right? And now I get tenure, get the short straw, I become department head. I don't know anything about people. I know rats really well. But I don't have, the issues I have as a department head are not about curriculum or not about students. It's mostly about faculty stuff. Like dealing with faculty who are having issues or conflict. I don't know how to do that. We don't provide toolkits for faculty. All right, so off on a tangent. Sorry, just throw me back in. So what you do in response, again, this particular kind of conduct. List of resources for you there, and I divided into two. So in the survey, when there was more than 10 in a list, they were randomized, okay? So that if Karen got I was angry first, Sheila might get I ignored it, okay? So they're split up so it's not privileging one over another. I divided these categories into personal responses and reporting responses, okay? So look at these. This is my Starbucks moment, right? I go out to lunch and we have lunch. Did you see what happened to Isaiah yesterday? Play along.
Yeah.
Wasn't that awful?
Yeah.
It was terrible, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't go any further than that. With reporting, look at the percentages compared to the personal. Much less, right? Why don't you report, do you tell me? My story before. I'm afraid of what's going to happen if I do. Okay? So we had qualitative places for you to put in your comments. A lot of you provided us comments. Lots of detail. One person wrote 10 pages of stuff. Woo, okay. You're telling me that thematically, in this section about experiencing this kind of conduct, many of you talked about a hostile environment, hostile Swarthmore climate. Okay? You also talked about feeling excluded. Those are themes that came out. If nothing else, read the report and read the comments that support these themes. It's very telling of how your friends, colleagues, are experiencing the climate at Swarthmore. Oh, yeah, the hard part of the survey. So we also, this is one of my research areas, sexual assault. And obviously a huge thing on college campuses and a huge thing here before I came, right? The Not Alone document says 1 in 5. Totally ludicrous. It's not 1 in 5. That's been dismissed a zillion times by other researchers. All the new surveys that are out, AAU says 23% of people experience this. University of Kentucky said over 40% experienced it. Okay? So I'm going to say that I don't know the prevalence nationally based upon data that I think is flawed methodologically and how they ask the questions and things like that. So I'm going to compare you to my questions because I know the same in every one. I also know that by 2016, every campus in the country has to do a climate study that includes sexual assault. Not a loan document is making you do that from the White House, okay? They called me, DOJ and DOE, and asked me to use my questions. So you've already done it, okay? This is a good thing. So in comparison to other campuses like you, other liberal arts institutions that are in our data set, 3 to 5% is the usual number. You're at 7. It's higher. But contextually, think about what's happening here on campus when the survey went live, okay? 7%. Of the 7%, 70 people, 65 were students, 49 were women. So there is men who are experiencing this from women. That's important to know. And same gender violence, man on man, woman on women. LGBTQ respondents, 30, and disabilities, 27. Okay? Not unique to Swarthmore. That's not unique. Okay? Whatever study we look at across the country, we know that sexual assault occurs first year, first semester, first 6 weeks. That's the highest prevalence. It still happens the rest of the time, but that's the most we're going to see it. Okay? For students, because they're the largest group of the 70, 65 were students, so the rest of us talk about students. On campus, it happened more often than off campus. I'll tell you, alcohol was usually involved. Okay? It was not somebody jumping out of the bushes at you. It was an acquaintance or a friend. That's how you experienced it. Okay? And it happened in your first year. So you're mapping pretty much to what the national data says. We are seeing in our work, when we look at all these across all of the work that we've done, there's a big jump in the first year, then a kind of a drop off, then a big bump first semester junior. Why? They turn 21. That's why. I think. That's an assumption on my part, but oh shoot. So I want to show you that. So when someone is assaulted, what do? What do they tell us they do? Number one answer. It's like Family Feud. Number one answer. What do? Nothing. That's the number one answer. At Swarthmore, they didn't do anything either. And the committee was very clear, and Carm was part of our committee, and so we were very clear to make sure we had all the possible resources at Swarthmore listed, all the possible off-campus resources listed, other things that they might go to somebody to talk to on campus. So we had lots of choices. These are the ones they chose. They didn't go and talk to anybody. I am concerned that we are making it much more difficult for people to report or seek support than before. The Clery Act has made it very difficult. So we're all mandatory reporters now, right? Very difficult. So confident, we need to have, if you're assaulted at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, you're not going to go to a website to try to figure out who I go to, right? You're going to go to who you trust. And that oftentimes is you, staff in particular. You see them more than their faculty see them often, and you see them, especially student affairs folks. And you see them more than their family sees them, for sure. But because they go to a friend, that's 63% of people say they went to a friend, we have to make sure the friends know the confidential resource right away. Be able to make that contact so the student gets support. Because students who don't get support never become survivors, they stay victims. In this room, how many of you know someone who's been sexually assaulted? Raise your hand. Look around you. How many hands went up? It's a pandemic. We're finally trying to address it. Okay. So we asked 2 questions after qualitative and said, if you didn't report it, why didn't you? Here are the 2 themes. It was no big deal. And I was afraid if I did, what would happen to me? That's a media issue, right? They see what's happened to other women who have been victimized. Florida State, I think it was Florida State. Jameis Winston, right? The woman was vilified. She got death threats. So fear of that. And you're going to see your perpetrator every single day on a small campus. So usually that's a reason why students tend to leave. Okay? We also asked if you felt supported when you reported it. And they said, if I did report it, yep, it was handled, supported. Kind of a divergence here. Some said they were very much supported, some they weren't supported at all. Okay? So it was on both sides. Read the comments. Have a glass of wine when you're doing that, because it's hard to read. Okay. Sorry, I'm not promoting alcoholism, but okay, so the next part of the survey asked about, have you seriously considered leaving the institution? Now, faculty and staff, grain of salt, because every day at Penn State you asked me, I thought about going, okay? Just depending on what day you asked me. So, but students usually come to Swarthmore with the intent of staying and finishing their career here, right? So among faculty and staff, these are high. Over 60% of faculty and staff seriously thought about leaving the institution. Okay, that's higher than I find other places, but it's not unique, okay? Not unique. The reason that they left is because they felt there's no place for me to go. Now, let me offer a scenario. So I had a lot of staff that worked at Penn State, and I would encourage them to get an education. That's my job. You should, I'm college, go get some more education, get a master's degree, get an associate's degree, whatever, and I'll support you in that. However, you need to know that there's no place for you to go in our unit when you get that. Don't expect you're going to get a promotion or a raise just because you got the degree, because there's no place for you to go. But I will help you find a place to fit. Another job, either at the institution or somewhere here. Okay, it's a very different thing to have an expectation than to know exactly what's going to happen after you get that education. Okay? Tension in department and work unit. So you've seen some themes here for staff, especially hourly staff. Yeah. Okay. Qualitative themes, low salaries. Nobody gets paid enough in higher education. That's just the way it is. Lack of advancement, I can't go anywhere, and supervisor conflict. So the things that happened in the qualitative part where you're writing in your experiences map to the quantitative piece, right? So it gives voice to that quantitative data. Students, 41% of students in our sample thought about leaving. That's high, okay? Something for us to work on. Almost all in their first year. These are the students who stayed, because the survey went out when? What part of the year did the survey go out? Spring. So we already lost the students who left in first semester. That's when they'll mostly leave. And the folks who are working with first-year students, they know this stuff. I'm not telling you anything you already don't know. Oh, dang it again. So if I do exit interviews, right, with students, stop doing them because they don't tell you anything, right? If I'm interviewing you after, you can say, the reason I'm going to leave is because, one, I can't afford it here, or two, I've got personal stuff going on. That's not the reason they leave. Number one reason in all of our studies is sense of belonging. I don't belong here. I don't fit in. In this survey, for your particular sample, the top 4 are all about not belonging. I don't belong here. Terrell Strayhorn's work, amazing work, Ohio State University, wrote a book in 2013 about sense of belonging for college students. Broke with students, either read the book. It's really easy to read. It's not academic, it's easy to read. Talks about this concept, sense of belonging. African-American men student athletes graduate at much higher rates than African-American students. Why? I got a cohort. I belong to something. Especially at Swarthmore, you had students from everywhere. And they come here as an individual. And got to try and fit in. It's really scary to do that. How do I fit in? And if we know already who the at-risk students are, why aren't we providing opportunities where they fit in? Again, it's not rocket science, I don't think. Cohorts work, okay? Because you hold the other accountable. Okay. Other things are usual, homesick, financial. Coursework too difficult. That's come up a couple times here too, right? This is a very rigorous academic institution. Students are students of color in particular, focus groups and also in the results. Talk about the fact that they are surviving their experience at Swarthmore as opposed to thriving. Surviving as opposed to thriving. I got students, you're all going like this again, so that's good, okay. So the two qualitative themes, sense of belonging, and the coursework is really hard. Okay, perceptions, second part of the survey. Overall, 49% of you said, I saw something happen that wasn't a very good thing, okay? Usually it's 30-35%, so you're an outlier here too in a. You can say this is negative. I don't think so. I think it's positive. Why is it positive? People notice. They actually see it when it happens. Yeehaw. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least they notice it. They know, as a white person, I know racial profiling when I see it. Okay? Almost always derogatory comments. That makes sense because you're observing something, right? But again, we saw that isolation and being left out. And now we've got the social media stuff happening. And that's gone up significantly. That was never in my top 10. Now it's in my top 5 almost all the time. Okay? Yik Yak, the bane of my existence. Don't read Yik Yak. It's a really nasty thing. But it does tell you what students think, because they'll say things there they wouldn't say other places. Okay? Reason why? Gender. And then we also have political views again comes up. And a lot of this is about, it's not as liberal as I thought it was going to be, or progressive, or I'm a conservative person and I can't express my views as a conservative person, right? So it kind of goes back and forth across those. Qualitatively, there's things happening, and a lot of it's based upon gender and, I see it in social media and I see it in racial profiling. Okay, so again, read the qualitative pieces. The voices of your colleagues are really powerful. Faculty and staff, perceptions. So in the report, you're going to see tons of tables. You'll have a question, and then it'll have a breakdown by hourly staff and salaried staff, or tenured faculty, non-tenured faculty. Next question has gender and race. I didn't forget the other ones. They weren't significant. Okay? So the report reports the significant results. At the end of each section, you'll be able to see the analyses done to create those significance levels. Hiring, firing, promotion. These are all higher here than other places I find. Okay? So around hiring practices, staff feel they see it 19% of the time, faculty 26% of the time. People are being hired unjustly. There's just other people that get the job. Around firing, again, a little higher than what I find in other places for faculty and staff. Someone got fired unjustly. Okay? Promotion, those are really high. You got promoted because of X, or you didn't get promoted because of X. So it goes both directions, right? They hired this African American person and they shouldn't have got hired because they weren't as qualified. The white person should have got hired, right? African American says, I didn't get the job because I'm African American, right? So it goes in both directions. Reasons why? Race, ethnicity, and then because you know somebody. They got the job because their brother knew the brother of the person who's in the job. Or, you know, they know me from something else, so I'm going to get the job even though I'm more qualified. Okay, so it's who you know. Racial-based hiring, again, in both directions, like the example I just gave. And gender disparity, that women are not being hired or promoted because of their gender. Sexism, racism, heterosexism, ageism are all alive and well at Swarthmore. Okay, you're not a little bubble here where it doesn't happen. Work-life balance, for the most part, people were pretty satisfied, faculty and staff, with the policies and things in place to make my life easier or to be able to balance that work-life kind of thing. Some of the examples of successes for staff were that most people felt that they had support to balance work-life. Majority of the college felt that their supervisors were helpful in regards to taking leave, and they also could pursue professional development opportunities. So that was pretty good for staff. Okay. Challenges. There's a hierarchy in staff about whose voice counts and whose doesn't. That's a question that the committee added. I can't give you any kind of benchmarking there. I felt pressured by department outside of my scheduled hours. I have to work beyond my hours as an hourly staff person, and I feel I have to, right? There's not a choice for me. And they did more work than their colleagues to help students. Okay, so some challenges for staff. Do these resonate with you all or no? Yeah? Kind of, sort of? Not really? Some of the qualitative themes. Equipment. Some of you have it, some of you don't. And some of you have equipment and say it's not good enough for me to do my job. I need better equipment, right? I have no interaction across position. And here's where the issues happen, right? If you're a staff member, okay, I'm a staff member, and what's your name? Gina. Gina and I are friends outside of the university, right, the college. And our kids play soccer together or whatever, right? And go to the same church, whatever it might be. Okay, so, where are they going? Oh, yeah. So, up here we have policy set, right? And your boss is Diane. And you go to Diane and say, Diane, because you're kind of squeezed now between taking care of your parents who are getting older and taking care of your kids. Can I have from 3 to 4 off tomorrow to take my mom to the physician? I'll work from 3 to 4. I mean, I'll work over my lunch hour and take 3 to 4. What do you say?
Of course.
Right. You're going to be the bad job boss. It's because I know I can pick on you. All right, so I go to you and say, same thing. What do you say?
Sorry, just can't, it's not going to happen.
No. Neither one of them are wrong because the policy says my lunch hour is 12 to 1. As a new boss or a new supervisor, you're trying to follow policy, so you get 12 to 1. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be consistent, so I don't give one person something over another, so 12 to 1 is kind of it. So I'm really sorry, but that's why, okay? You're like, oh, I'm going to be a nice boss. Of course you can. That's okay. We'll make it work, right? We go back and talk to each other. I am pissed off, okay? Because why did she get it and I didn't? So inconsistency in that policy kind of interpretation causes concerns. That's where the issues happen. So a little more consistency in those. I have to work late hours and salary. Some said it's competitive, some say it's not. Okay? Faculty. You say that you're going to use that time freed up by the 4 course load for academic research and to help students in regards to supervision. Okay? I'm not going to blow the time off. I'm going to actually use it productively. 7%, my teaching loads are pretty fair across departments, and I feel like my teaching and research is pretty valued here. Okay, so faculty, those are the successes. Some of the challenges of faculty, I'm only 38% that I feel that they have that kind of balance for work life. A lot of faculty are doing a lot of work for students they aren't getting paid for. Okay? Child care benefit, you need child care. That's not an issue that's an issue for Swarthmore. That is a national dilemma. We can't keep people because we can't provide child care for them. And think about it. Who needs child care among faculty? Assistant professors, right? The first ones who make no money. Right? They make the lowest amount, the most pay, but they got to provide for child care and do their research and get tenure and, right? And only 20% feel that the decision of the board or the senior administration, senior leadership is transparent. I think that's changing a bit. I wouldn't be standing here otherwise. Salary is competitive, yep. And they feel that there's no compensation or low compensation for their work over the summer with students when they really are on only a 9-month contract, but they're still working over the summer with students. Right, faculty? Am I getting this right? Okay. Students. So here's the good news. We're almost done. Hang in. So students tell us that even though they are struggling and they have lots of obstacles and challenges and it's hard here, they love it. They're learning. They're getting a good academic experience. So we looked at this from a means testing perspective. We had a series of questions that measure how students perceive their academic success. Okay? Most groups of students feel they're doing well. There are a few who are not. White students feel that they have greater academic success than students of color. Students of color perceive that they're not doing as well as white students here. Straight students are doing better than asexual and other students. Disability students are doing less than those without disability, and those who are first generation and low income are doing less or perceive their success less than those who are high income, not first generation. Okay? Maps of the literature. This is not rocket science either. But we know they're at risk in the literature nationally, and they're also at risk here. The good news is these are really high. Students really are okay with their experience here. They're learning. It's positive on their intellectual development. They feel like they've been challenged to learn new things while they're here. Great job, faculty. You're doing your job, right? Students are feeling challenged, but they love it. Okay? They also feel like most of their courses are pretty stimulating. They like going to class. The next two are very low, way off scale low. Students here are really hard on themselves. It's a great experience, but I'm really not doing as good as I should be. You know, I'm fit. I get a B+. Oh. Right? That adds to their stress, that anxiety they feel at liberal arts institutions that are academically rigorous. So we've got to find some balance between the rigor and not killing them. Okay, there's got to be a balance there. How do we figure that out? Okay. So what do we do in response? We said, what do we do in response? Tell us. Faculty said, we need more mentorship for new faculty. We need to have faculty who are new here have that sense of someone they can go to talk to. And we should have a better, keep working on trying to create that tenure clock stop, right? Women in STEM fields put off having children until they get tenure because they're afraid that if they have a child in between and stop their clock, they're not going to get tenure. They're seen less than, right? Less faculty, not all, less faculty said, we don't need counseling for people who experience harassment. We don't need a way to resolve conflict. and we don't want to include this in any part of our hiring process. Now, I'm going to disagree with you there because I think you say at Swarthmore you want all those things. Okay, but some folks don't feel that way. Training. Faculty don't want any. Okay. Staff. You say we do want someone to go talk to and we have experience. It's kind of hard. We don't know who to go to. Provide training. We do want staff training around this stuff. And we do want somebody to go to figure out how we're going to resolve these conflicts. Ombudspersons are, if you don't have one, they're an excellent way to move forward. Okay? Because it's a place you can go where you don't feel like you're going to be judged and no one's going to know. It's confidential. And the best people to do that, I find, is a potential best practice. Someone who is just retired or recently retired from Swarthmore, who lives in the area, who has some credibility and respect from the faculty and staff, great person to choose. I know the institution, but I don't work there anymore. Right? Okay. Staff, you want more mentorship. So here's an example of a staff story, right? One of the focus groups. Staff person said, I worked here for a while. I applied for a new job. I got the job. My first day on the job, this is hourly staff. I went to my desk, and the person who I'm working with or was working with me said, here's your desk. Fill out the HR forms. Here's your computer. Have a nice day. Because I had worked here before, they thought I knew how to do the job. No, it's a whole different department. I don't know what I'm doing. So how to provide ongoing mentorship for staff so they know how to navigate that without just saying, here you go, right? We do want training for search committees. They should have some idea that this is valued for us, and we need accessible and affordable childcare. Less staff said, we don't need career development. We need professional development, right? So different. And we also don't want to have this as part of the hiring criteria. Okay. Staff said we need childcare. We need an ombudsperson. You all said that in the themes. And you want more mentorship. So the themes are actually following your stories told us the same thing we heard in the quantitative. Students, you said we want more interaction with our faculty outside of the classroom. Okay. We also would like training for everybody. Faculty, staff, and students, they definitely need it, okay? And we'd like more effective academic advisement. A couple of stories where a student would come in with an idea of a major and realize that they got in the first few classes, this ain't for me. Now what do I do? Okay. Students also said that we want someone to go to address classroom issues when they're classroom. Who do I go talk to when someone goes out in the classroom? We want more chances to have cross-cultural dialogue between us. Michigan's program on intergroup dialogue, fabulous program. If you don't know what it is, it's a great program and one that I think allows people to do the work at their own campus and not have a canned program. And incorporating this throughout the curriculum. Students don't have time here to go to another program. So thank you for coming, students, today, right? They don't have time to go to a program. They're swamped. So why isn't it, if it's important to you as a community, why isn't it part of the curriculum in every class? Okay. And students in their qualitative said better academic advice. Okay, so I'm done. Questions before I summarize? Okay.
It is 11:41.
Oh, yeehaw. Okay, I'm doing good. So, you are not a little bubble here. You're not. Okay? What happens out there affects what happens here. Ferguson, Charleston, Mizzou, okay? Those things influence and impact. And I will tell you, I read the email that went from the students to the community about the trying to be supportive and in solidarity. That was an amazing email. Whoever wrote it, yeehaw. But anyway, so off topic. If it's African American men students on our college campuses right now are afraid for their lives. Women, African American mothers, are waiting for the phone call that says their son's been killed. As a white woman, I don't have that experience. Are we supportive of those who do in our community? If it's racist out there, it's racist here. If it's heterosexist there, it's heterosexist here. If it's ageist there, it's ageist here. But in higher education, we don't want to call it that. We're not racist at Swarthmore. Yes, you are. There is racism here. Not that you're racist, individual people. It's a racist environment. Okay? It's sexist here. Yes, the results show this. If we call it sexism there, we got to call it sexism here. Call it what it is. If we don't, we devalue the experiences of those who are experiencing it, and that's not okay. I'm sorry, I'm preaching. Okay. You got the idea, right? It's not going to hurt your admissions to say that this is happening here. It's refreshing. You have a multicultural weekend for students to come to campus? It's selling them a bill of goods. They come to campus for the multicultural weekend, and they're like, wow, look at all the students of color. They go to their first class. Where'd everybody go? Okay, so these are my ideas of successes, but you're going to look at this yourself as a community, that 80% of students are pretty comfortable with the classroom. That's good. That most faculty are pretty happy in the classroom. That students think really positive of their academic experience here, and that faculty and staff say that there's a pretty good work-life balance, right? Positive things. Challenges, we think. That there's a lot of people seeing stuff happening. That's good and bad, right? We said 24% have experienced this. A lot of folks thinking about leaving the institution, and we still got sexual assault to deal with. Okay? Those are mine. May not be yours. Next steps. I couldn't help it. It's coming. The winter is coming. So I'm going to stop here and turn it over to Diane to talk about your next steps, because the community has to take these on yourself, okay? Thank you for your time.